Good evening, folks. Patrick here. 8 questions with. I'm actually joined by our good friend, the Cheetah. I just heard him come up from behind me. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. It is yet another absolutely brutal night here in southeastern Michigan. Um, yeah, it's been really rough. We've had a big water main blow up in Detroit, and it's caused massive destruction. So water has come through many houses, and it's come out. It's been so cold that the water has frozen. It's frozen cars, almost a layer of ice over the cars on the street. It's something you see out of a Hollywood movie more than you would, a major city. And it's so cold out there. We have people, we have people not making it this year. There's been several reports of people dying, including two kids who basically froze in a car. Um, yeah, it's a real tragedy here. It seemed to be wanted to get. I thought it was going to get a little bit warmer today, but it did not. It stayed right where it was at, about 0 degrees, with wind chill factor up to minus 15 degrees. Our friend Michelle from North Dakota, she sent me a screenshot. It's 15 degrees, not wind chill factor. Just that's what the temperature is. It's minus 15 degrees. It's set a record. So, um, yeah, it's rough. It's supposed, like I said, it's supposed to have been warming up, but it has not. It's actually stayed just as cold as cold. So we don't know what's going to happen. Hey, there he is. Mike and Krubby and Tony all walking in through the door. Thank you guys for coming on in. Again, congratulations to Mike and Emma. Um, that was weird though, man. I got to tell you, my brother, that was a weird picture of you in front of the DeLorean. I Man, that hit me hard, man. That was a hard hitting picture, man, because I'm watching you guys, in front of the car, and then I know what the car is. The car is a time machine, and I was just thinking, like, can I just borrow the damn car to go back in the time machine? Man, I was that hit hard. I was like, wow, it's a great picture, but a little emotional. It was interesting. Mark the Shark swimming in. Have not seen Mark the Shark in here for a bit. I'm sure that he is still raising puppies. I'm sure he's still he breeds dogs. I think Labradors, if I'm not mistaken. And once in a while he'll get a batch of puppies or potatoes, as they're known. Um, how is it that dogs are known as potatoes and cats are known as meatballs? If you ever watch any other rescues, animal rescues, they will yeah, yeah. We definitely will be talking about time machines tomorrow. That's for sure. Um, um, it's weird how dogs and cats are called certain names, like nuggets. I guess they're called nuggets too. I've always heard kittens called meatballs, and dogs are always called potatoes. I guess it's the size of the. I guess it's their size. When you get a little puppy and you look at it, it's about the size of a potato in your hand. And with a kitten, it is a meatball. It's about the size of a meatball. So I always think that's really cute when they get called that. See, Anthony is still now he's up to 2009 in his memoirs. So now he has to now Anthony has to work faster because now he has a publisher. He has a publisher. Today's guest will be actor Frank Marino Boyd. He'll be here shortly, and we're going to be talking with Frank about his career. He is he is and talk to him about how he got his start and about some of his projects that he has enjoyed working on, and of course, what's going to happen going forward with 2025. The way with our government is today, oof, we don't really know. honest to heaven, and it's nothing to dodge about, but it's like it's just like you're holding your breath because you know, because we do have a very vindictive little boy in the White House, and I wonder what he'll be doing to Hollywood. If he'll be and you could tell there's fear. You could definitely tell there is fear in there because if you notice, Saturday Night Live has actually been rather quiet about it. Notice that. Notice how quiet they're not poking fun at him anymore because, quite honestly, they're scared shitless. And and yeah, do they have cause to be? Is that going to affect movie? Is that going to affect movie making business going forward? It's something that needs to be talked about a little bit. So I think we'll climb into that. We'll climb into that bucket with Frank and get his opinion about that. Um, and of course, we'll also talk about various other things that come across as we do in our interviews. I want to say thank you for everybody who came out and supported our show yesterday. We had actress Sally McLean was here from Australia, and thank you guys so much for the feedback. I got a lot of feedback from that show saying how much people really enjoyed it. Um, I I gotta agree. I enjoyed the hell out of it too. That was a lot of fun. Considering that I was intimidated from the get go. I really was. I was like, man, I gotta hold my own here. I don't want to get overwhelmed. And I thought I did okay, but of course, you got to leave that up to you, the viewers and the listeners of our podcast here, to tell me what you guys think. Um, and I do appreciate all the feedback that we're getting on the channel. It does really help. Helps me tremendously. Lets me know where I can improve at. Let me know what kind of guests you guys want to see on the show. Um, and we're going to start working on March here. We're going to start working on March. We still got plenty of shows here left to do in February, including tomorrow. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we will be across the pond hanging out with our good friend Mike, who's in the chat from the Did You See That? We'll be going over there and talking with him about his latest and greatest adventure. And let me tell you, it will be the best adventure you'll ever have. And yes, I know that even includes having kids. I still think the wedding day is the biggest day in your life. I just sincerely believe that. I know some people say, "Well, it's the birth of the kid." No, it's the wedding. It always will be the wedding. That's the biggest day you're gonna celebrate. So we'll be talking to him about that. Um, and of course, he left me a small teaser before he went and got married. He asked me if I wanted to collaborate with him on a bad movie. Man, you that's like asking a fat kid if he wants some ice cream. Um, you want to go talk about a bad movie? Hell yeah, I'm your boy. Hell, let's do it. Um, I only know one other person I know that loves bad movies more than me, and that's our good friend. Hey, internet, it's Eric. He loves the bad movies. Though I am trying to help him out a little bit. I'm trying to get him elevate his viewing. And pretty soon we'll be talking about Schlocky. Schlocky is starting to rattle the chain a little bit. We've already done a Christmas one and we did a summer one, but it's getting to be the point now where we need to talk about springtime. Schlocky Spring should be due to be happening sooner than later. Got some cool stuff coming up here on the channel too. Got some interesting guests. May see a return of a favorite. Hopefully in March, we'll see a return of a favorite guest will come by and say hello. I am working on a little early yet, but hopefully maybe by the end of April. Might be talking to an actor who as soon as you see him, you'll instantly know who he is. He's appeared in some really terrific films. and one tremendous TV series. It's one of my favorites. He is working on Spider Dabrowski's new film called The Weeping. Spider's film is right in the middle of production. They've sent pictures from there's Spider's been posting pictures and small clips of the video on his Instagram channel, and very exciting. I'm very excited for this for Spider. His first film, Down Below, came out and it had a little bit of a rocky reception. But that happens to filmmakers, right? That does happen. Not every single first time filmmaker is going to come out and hit a grand slam. That's why you keep making them to get better and better. But there is definitely there's some glimmers, definitely in some really bright moments in Down Below that gives you an idea that Spider knows his way. He's just got to put the pieces together. And as fans, as horror fans, isn't that the fun part? Isn't that the fun part to see a favorite director or a favorite performer grow? I mean, hell, like I said before, not everybody comes out and hits a home run. And even those who do, sometimes they can lose their way. I mean, directing the movies is not a automatic science. You just don't do it and know how to do it. You got to work hard at it. Um, and you got to keep consistently working hard at it because there's been some veteran directors that we all know, like Francis Ford Coppola. I don't think anybody's mentioned, what was that movie he bombed with, Metropolitan or whatever. I mean, look, that movie came out and it got blown up, right? Critics blew that movie up. Doesn't mean that Francis Ford has forgotten how to direct. It's just that it just wasn't for everybody's cup of tea. So you got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what will be my next one. How am I gonna improve? How am I gonna improve on this last one? Every director does that. There's no director that I have ever talked to that has says that they have made the perfect film and that they could walk away and be totally happy with what they left behind. I've yet to talk to anybody who's ever said that. Um, so I'm excited for The Weeping. I think it'll probably come out later on this year, and has a stellar cast on it. That's one thing I've noticed already with Spider, is that he's able to attract A-list talent to the show, um, and uh, and so that's exciting. That's exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking for, speaking of Frank. Now I met Frank through another interview they did, and I'm with Michael James Bernard. Michael James Bernard he is currently in post production for his new film, The Wicked Ways of Webster County, which I have already watched. Um, that is going to be a tricky movie. That's going to be an interesting movie. All right. I the story that they're sharing is based off a true story, but the pacing and the way the story unfolds, it's not really like anything you've ever seen before. And again, that's exciting, um, because who wants to see the same thing over and over? Um, and so I'm jazzed. I'm curious to see how people are going to receive this film. Um, It's gonna be very exciting. It's gonna be very exciting. Um, I mean, as far as let's see, gotta just check the time. Our guest will be here momentarily. Let me go ahead and bring this up here, just in case he's trying to ping me. I'm not sure what it's like out there in the various areas as far as Ah, look what happened. See, I went ahead and I posted that up and the doorbell rang. So there you go. So the doorbell has rang. It is 8 o'clock. So we are going to bring Frank onto the stage. Those who are here, thank you for being here. Please feel free to share us out if you'd like to. That would be tremendously helpful. And let's go talk. Let's go ask great questions. Here we go. Good. Oh, are you outside on a porch?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say because I think I see sunlight, and I was gonna start crying because I'm like, man, if he's sitting there and it's bright daylight over there, um, I'm gonna cry.
No, Patrick. I wish I was. I just got really crappy lighting tonight in my office. So
No,
good to see you again. Good to chat with you again.
yes. Now, definitely. Now, I remember I saw you and Michael James and Michael Olier, and I forget the other gentleman's name. Um, Now, are you based in Wisconsin or Iowa? I had you in
I,
Iowa
yeah, I'm Iowa. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
because you guys have such a big posse over there. You notice that?
Right.
I mean, you guys got a nice, and it's getting bigger. Um, yeah, you're one of I think you're going to be my first Iowa, member of the Iowa crew to come in and talk with us this year, and I'm glad to have it.
Yeah,
I'm
me
glad you're
too.
here. Um, I was just talking about Michael James's new film, um, "The Wicked Ways of Webster County." Have you now? Now, I don't think you were featured in that one though, right?
No, I had a supporting role, a smaller part. But from what I've seen, some of the rough cut that he shared privately, it looks pretty good. Looks really good.
Good. It does look good. I'm impressed. It's a, it's so different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's almost like, man, it's the most PG-13 film I've seen of a horrific true story.
Right. Yeah, I
I,
think you're gonna like it.
you know what? I think sometimes, I think it's interesting that, a lot of these true crime stories, they come out and they get made. Like I saw another film from another film director, and it definitely earns this R rating. Let me tell you, it screams it. Um, and I know, like, sometimes on TV, like on Lifetime, they'll have all these true crime stories. And I know a lot of people just poke fun at them a lot. They poke fun at them because it's Lifetime, and and
Right.
so I think. Do you think that as an actor, I mean, as far as reaching out to reaching an audience, are you okay? Are you okay with seeing a story that you're in that's based on a true story that's horrific, like Webster County? You look at that, where Michael based it at, and you go like, man, that is, it's a rated R story. It really
Right.
is. It's like, yeah. But in order to reach a larger audience, I believe,
Yeah.
he lowers it down to PG-13, saying, yes, I have to tone down the language, I have to tone down the gore, but instead of having maybe 100,000 people see it, now I have 300,000 people seeing it.
Right.
What do you feel as an actor? What's more important? The fact that we're going to be able to do more meaty a script, or more, more gore, more action, or are you okay with, what, if this reaches three times as many people by lowering down the rating? Are you okay with that as an actor, or would you rather just dig into something a little bit more chunkier?
You and I are probably old enough to remember how if you got an R rating on something back 20 years ago, that was pretty much a death nail at the box office. I mean, unless it was a horror movie, but anything other than that, it was, it just wasn't, it was bad for business. My thoughts are if you can do it without compromising the story and without compromising your integrity as a filmmaker, as an actor, I've got no problem with dropping it down to the PG-13. Not at all. But sometimes, even if you drop it down to try to theoretically reach more people, sometimes you alienate the core audience that you would have been better off just sticking to your guns and letting it rip from the hip. So
Especially since you have nothing to go back on, you have nothing to draw upon. Like,
right,
this is Michael's second film. And the only thing he could draw on is, of course, the first film, You Should Have Killed Me, which was a
Mhm.
rated R film, and earned it. And
Right.
so there's nothing that he could, he has no going forward, as a director. He's sort of walking in the dark a little bit, like,
Right.
I don't know if this is going to work or not. I can't draw upon it. He could draw upon other people who do it, but
Sure.
it's not his. It's not his. It's not his voice.
Right.
Um, I think it's daring. That's really when I was watching the film. The only thing that really came across my mind was how daring it was for him. It's a risk,
Sure.
but I applaud him for taking that risk.
Right. Yeah, you just at the end of the day, I think you take it by case, type of deal or a film by film thing, and you just go with your gut. I think that's always go with your gut on what to do on that kind of stuff. So that's where I would adhere to that.
Um, and speaking of that, I mean, if you do get offers to do work like that, if someone would have walked up to you and said, Frank, we got three roles for you. We got one that's a gangster one that's a sports one that's a family drama, and they all want you. The rate's the same. I mean, there's nothing. The only thing that's holding you back is you picking which film you want to do. If that's the situation walked up to you, how do you take it? Take do you, both as an actor and as a human, maybe a father. How much of the theme of a movie will influence will influence you to audition for it or to
Right.
accept the role if it was offered to you?
I think I think with me kind of just with my age and stuff, I think I would just go with the thing that interests me the most. And playing a father, I not a drama as a dad or something probably wouldn't interest me that much. I'd probably lean more towards the action film, to be honest with you, just because that's where I'm at now in life. Uh,
Right. You
so I
and you
mean,
would think and you would think
all
it'd be a
things
little bit.
considered, even that's probably what I would go with. I'm not really much into the. I've never really been much into the horror genre. They're a little bit, but not. I mean, I know some guys and gals that are just they live for that, and nothing wrong with that. It's just that's what floats their boat. But for me, and yeah, there's only so many times you can play a dad or Uncle Frank or something. It just gets kind of blasé after a while. And even action films, they get kind of regurgitated over and over again. But if you can make it your own, and that's the case with anything. But you asked the question, I think I would, all things considered, even all scripts, everything, I would probably tend towards the action film. So
I always feel like that. I always feel for the most part, there's it's people, it's except for true original stories. A true original story. Like a lot of people watch. Like we talk about Hallmark movies a lot, and it's like it's the
yeah,
same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Guess what? We all know that already. You're not telling me anything new. You're not
right.
telling anybody else anything new. The only
No,
reason why we're there watching it is the fact that, same thing with horror, same thing with drama. The main thing we're there to watch isn't necessarily the story, it's the ones who's telling it. The actors who are telling the same story. Like when
yeah,
you hear that, well, Frank and Michael have great chemistry together. That's awesome. That's what I want to. I'm more into that. I'm more into seeing that. Uh, uh,
right.
you know, 'cause- I mean, you can have two big names, and then you see how awkward they are.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like go
you're
ahead.
you're you're watching the beautiful people, on those Hallmark stuff. And I'm not knocking anybody I've got a good film friend of mine that is very accomplished in those films. Um, and he's a really good actor. But you're looking at and he could be a male model, and that's the same with all those guys in those films. Most of them are they just got that look, and the girls are you know just talented and gorgeous, and that's you're selling sugar, you're selling bubble gum to the masses, and that's their formula. You know, it's
Right.
the Bon Jovi record. It sounds the same since '86 to 2006 to 2026. They've got a formula. They've got a marketing plan. They just boom, boom, boom. It's the beautiful people, and there's nothing wrong with it. So
No.
more power to them. But an ugly guy like me, you know, I'm going to be stuck getting punched in a Western or getting shot in an action film, and I'm here for it.
Let's see. I want to say hi to everybody in the chat. Cheryl is here, and Brother Max. Thank you for coming in.
Guys,
The Mighty Hob Core. He thinks that gore works on multiple levels of motion pictures. But can you sell it? But can you sell it well? It doesn't require it's done correctly. You're right. There's a lot of good horror films, and there are a lot of good horror films. Though I personally, I feel like really, I think there's a difference between a good horror film and a great horror film, and that really is the rating. Like what can you get away with?
right.
PG-13. It's like I'm okay with a PG-13 movie, but it's very, very, very rare that a PG-13 movie will get me going.
For
Or
horror, yeah, for a horror movie, no, you almost got to go hard for the, you got to go hard for the gore and the stuff. Just being honest.
let's see. The reason I don't watch Hallmark motion pictures as much is because there's always a happy ending. It doesn't seem like real life, but that's just an opinion from an old man.
Well,
Um,
that's the formula. That's the sugar coat. That's the bubble gum. That's what they're not doing meat and potatoes. They're doing dessert, and it's the
Mhm.
formula. So yeah, everybody knows the outcome,
Sure, sure. I mean,
and
it's.
they must be doing something right because they keep selling ads, for all of it. So
I mean, it's yeah. They average about between 36 to 40 Christmas movies a year. I mean, that's that, and they're all pretty much just the same thing, But
yeah,
it's the chemistry of the actors. There really is of the actors, and that's one thing I will say about Hallmark movies. If you really watch the movies, I mean, just watch them acting wise, they deliver. I've only seen, and it was because I felt like there was a family tragedy that affected her performance, but I've only seen one of their major stars ever like drop the ball once, as far as like, man, she was terrible in that. I've
oh,
only seen that happen once, and I don't necessarily think she was terrible, but I think they filmed the movie about the same time that she lost a family member.
oh,
And I don't care who you are, and, I don't
oh,
care how experienced you are, when you're hurting that deeply, it's going to reflect in your work.
right on.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you could tell that she was not there. So but that's really what it is. We get a lot of, I remember I think the first movie, what was the first movie that you ever remember with when you saw a leading man and the leading lady just did not work, and you're going like, and you noticed it. You're sitting
I,
there going, damn, that's rough.
that's that's an interesting question. I'd have to go back off the top of my head. I'm thinking Nick Nolte and Julia Roberts and Nothing But Trouble. That just seemed like they lived up to that title. They just didn't seem to like each other, and not even as their character. It just didn't. I didn't buy it, Patrick. I didn't buy it with that off the top of my head. That's one that comes to mind.
I remember for me, it was the Specialist with Sylvester Stallone and Sharon
Oh,
Stone.
yeah.
It They just had nothing there. I mean, it was painful to watch.
That
It
was
was
a
really,
money grab for everybody to just grab the cash.
yeah, it was painful to watch. It's like, they supposedly had a hot sex scene. Oh my God, it was like the
Yeah.
worst. It was like the worst sex scene of any couple that you would ever want to see on the screen.
Hmm.
Now as an actor, have you been paired up with a screen partner or a scene partner where, even though you met them, or maybe you have met them off screen, but it just hasn't clicked. It just doesn't click on screen or during the shoot. Um, has that ever happened to you? And what are some of the tricks of the trade that actors do to, 'cause especially with character actors? I mean, lead actors, they do chemistry tests. We've heard about chemistry tests and whatnot, and you want your main couple to be, but you can't do that with the entire cast. I got a call list of 100 people. We got to make sure they all get along to each other. That's not going to
Right.
happen. So, but when it does happen on a smaller movie and a smaller set, have you ever run across that? And what are some of the ways that you've overcome that? And has there ever been a time where you just like, I, it's just not working?
Not yet. So far, I've been very fortunate to have just the right amount of chemistry for working with some other actors that, and I'm kind of new to this. I've only been doing this for just a little over 7 years. So, and a lot of the stuff I do, is kind of more action related anyways, but the few instances where I've had to have some chemistry with a female actor, I so far so good. So yeah, you got to work out the kinks probably before in casting, like you said, with the screen tests and the chemistry stuff. But yeah, so far so good. And I think I think if I had to say it, I think that most people that are acting are, they're pros at whatever level they're at, and they can make it work. Now, when you get egos involved with the big Hollywood type, okay, that changes things. But on our level now, where everybody's at now on the independent thing, I think everybody's got a good work ethic, and they want to make it work, and
Hmm.
they'll force it through and break the ice, however they need to, respectfully. And I haven't seen anything yet to say
I think
otherwise.
I was gonna say I don't necessarily think that that would be a problem necessarily in your neck of the woods, where everything is relatively new and exciting. When someone gets cast in an Iowa production, between Michael James or some other filmmakers we've talked
Right.
to, it's always been excitement, excited to be here, excited to work, to do the work.
Sure.
Whereas sometimes out in Los Angeles or Atlanta or New York or what have you, sometimes the actors have been, caught in the wash machine a little bit. They've been bounced around, and and they don't have quite, they don't have that, they don't have that. I don't. They don't have that same enthusiasm they did when they very first started their career. Um,
Right.
it's you know, it's sometimes not everyone, but there is some times where they're just not there. They're not in the moment.
Right.
And that's gonna be sort of rough to have someone like that, doing a scene, especially if it's one of the few scenes you have in the movie, and you're sort of really dependent on the other person to help you get through. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden they come in there and they're having just out they're just not there for you. Um,
Right.
I mean
And
that's
we usually find out about that stuff like later, in like interviews a year and a half after the film, where it comes out where, they were, not getting along and the chemistry wasn't there, if someone doesn't get fired first. But yeah, we usually don't know about that as the buying public right away, but
yeah.
it does come out later, and it's unfortunate. But yeah.
Uh, so talk. Let's take us back to you mentioned your career started for 7 years ago. So take us back to the beginning. I mean, did you always want to be an actor, or was it something that when you were growing up, was that something you always aspired to be, or is this something that you just said, you know what, I'm sitting here, I'm not doing anything, I'm going to start acting. Did you have the bug all or did you just get up and decide, hey, I'm going to make it happen for myself?
I was always wanting to be an actor from the time I was probably 10 or 11. From that time on, early on, I wanted to be Fran Tarkington. I wanted to be a quarterback for the Vikings. Well, I didn't. Yeah, once I saw me throw a football, I knew that wasn't going to happen. So
Well, you could
I,
scramble though, couldn't you?
yeah, I can
Okay.
run for my
You
life.
got,
Yeah, I know
yeah,
how to do
yeah,
that.
you had half the skills.
Yeah. So I've always wanted to be an actor. And when I was, like I said, a 10, 11-year old, and my parents, as I got older, I kept mentioning as I became a teenager, I said, man, I'd like to be an actor. I want to be an actor. And they discouraged me, from doing that. You're going to starve to death. You're going to, work at a restaurant. And rightfully so, they weren't wrong in doing that. You know, you're talking about growing up in a hog farm in Plymouth, Iowa, in the 1970s, early 1980s. I mean, there was no internet. You weren't going to get discovered, you know, in a town like that, and you know, and they were right. So, so I got away from it, and then I got into a band, a couple of local bands, and I learned how to play bass guitar and got into a band. And we recorded a couple of CDs. We saved up our money and did some recordings and stuff, and that never really went anywhere. But we played about every weekend for 6.5 years, and then fast forward, you know, here I am. I'm just about ready to turn 50 or so, and a friend of mine that was in the band, he was the lead guitar player in the band, named Kevin Isaacson, who's a renowned filmmaker up here as well. And then his buddy and my buddy Mike Godfrey wanted to get some films going. Kevin had been writing stories, and he'd been having a hard time getting anybody to want to make them into short films. And somebody he was in a writing club or something online, and somebody online suggested, "Hey Kevin, why don't you just film it yourself? Like, it's so easy, you know." So Kevin went out and got the cameras and got the microphones, and he recruited his friends and family, and had some auditions at the local high school for a film called Oliver Short, which you can find on YouTube right now. And you know, the story, it's kind of it changes. We don't know if I asked him or if he asked me to be a part of it, but either way, I think I asked him, and he said he asked me. But anyways, we got to do that in September of 2017. He says, "Hey Frank, what are you doing?" I said, "Nothing." He goes, "You want to shoot a movie?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And okay, meet me out at the cemetery at 9 o'clock tonight. I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Trust me, trust me."
I'm sure. Oh, I mean, did you go like, excuse me, what was that?
Yeah,
Like,
I did the old what, huh?
now,
So
are you a horror movie fan? You know, outside of acting, are you a horror movie fan?
not particularly. I mean, I've seen several. When I was younger, I watched more than I do now. I don't like being scared. I don't like being agitated the older I get, so I'm not really into it now. And that, no fault if anybody does, you know, they do like that. It's just not my thing. But when I was younger, you know, I watched the Freddy Krueger Nightmares on Elm Street and all that.
I
So
was just thinking. I was thinking when he says, "Yeah, come on out to the cemetery," you're going like, you know what? That's where bad things happen to people. Can't we meet up with the Dairy Queen instead? And
right. And I do like a good ice cream cone rather than getting scared.
there
But
you go.
it ended up being more of it was a supernatural thriller. So it wasn't a horror movie, but it was a
Okay.
supernatural thriller, kind of a take on um, A Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. It was kind of a take on that when I read the script,
Okay.
but
Okay.
it's kind of an ABC after school special vibe to it as well. But
All right.
it was a good one to get started on, and Kevin sent that to festivals all across the U.S. and did really well with it. So
Now, up to that time when he asked you, you didn't have any. Well, the band shot a few videos, right? Did you ever make a couple of music videos?
no, we never made any videos.
Okay.
Just a couple of CDs. We saved up some money and rented some studio time down in Fort Dodge, Iowa, and then we saved up some more up in Cannon Falls, Minnesota. And so we played our shows, we squirreled away our money, and then we bought some studio time and then recorded some original music that we all wrote, that the five of us wrote and worked on. But that's how I got to know Kevin and retouch with Mike and some really talented guys, super talented guys, great friends of mine, and known those guys probably over 30 years easy. So
So yeah, well, I guess he's gonna have to be a good friend. I mean, for someone to invite you to come out at a cemetery at 9 at night, you better be like a brother to me.
yeah,
Uh, so you said, sure, I'm down with that. And
yeah,
so, so he went to the cemetery.
yeah. And
And,
we filmed, I think it took him a week to shoot that film. It ended up running time, I think it's a 29-minute running time, but I think we shot it over 7 days. I can't remember, and I wasn't on set all the time, but for every night or every day either. But I tell you what, to get your feet wet doing something that you've always wanted to do, but you get to do it with two buddies like that, and kind of, and we all got to kind of learn together. And Patrick, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. I haven't arrived yet, so I'm still learning, and I'm still growing as a filmmaker, as an actor. And
I think
but it
any
was good
actor.
to come in. It was good to wet my feet with those two guys. So I feel very, very fortunate in that regard.
I like to think that every actor and director, like I was just talking about another director before he got here, um, and he debuted his first film earlier this year, and it was a little bit bumpy. It had some good moments in it, but it was it was a little bumpy. And I just think of that. To me though, what's really important was the fact that he made it, he released it, then he turned right around and he got back on the horse and get at it again.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with that. I'm impressed
And
with
that's
that. Yeah, he just he didn't let what had happened. He says, you know what, I'm going to learn from this.
yep.
I'm going to learn from this and make a better film going forward. I think every director should have that attitude, or also any actor. You know, hell, sitting here in this chair talking to you, I always had the same. I had the same thing. I always feel like I got to do better than I did yesterday.
Right.
You
And
know,
that's the way these two guys are too, Kevin and Mike, respectfully. They're both, I mean, we filmed Oliver and we hopped right into another project. And Kevin says he's going to shoot a feature film called Run. Uh, and he used a lot of the same people in Oliver short for Run. And I remember we were starting filming for Run must have been February of 18. And there was a weekend that we had off, so we decided to shoot another short film that he wrote called Tea Party, which ended up being a 5 or 6, maybe a 7-minute film. That's kind of a Tales from the Crypt kind of vibe to it, kind of a Twilight Zone vibe to it, called Tea Party, and you can find that on YouTube as well. But and Kevin he was just popping these films out one after another, and they weren't junk. I mean, he was getting, sending them to festivals, and people were receiving them, and so he's super talented guy, super talented writer, director, and editing, and everything else that he does. It's mind-boggling, And then Mike's his right-hand man, and that guy, you talk about talent. Those two guys have it in spades, and it's cool to be with, but it's even cooler to say that they're friends of mine. So, but yeah, they stay busy, and they stay after it, and so.
oh yeah, I'm excited to see. I am excited, very excited to see the reception that he gets for Western County. That's going to be. I think that's going to really open a lot of eyes because of the tone of the story and the pacing that he did with it. I think it's going to be. People aren't going to expect that. They're going to expect it to be, flash and dash with a lot of lights, but it's so much more subtle.
Yeah.
And it's as much as a family film, family drama that it is, anything else. It's like to make a just to face it, the story is based of it is horrible. So it's like terrifying. It's like, but then you take that and you make that into like a family movie without losing any of the impact.
Another talented guy, Minard and Tyler Ritchie, his partner. Those guys are tearing it up too. And there's a lot of talent in this area. A lot of talent in Iowa. A lot of talent in Nebraska, the Midwest in general. Just Wisconsin's up and coming, and it's Minnesota. So I mean, it's the thing that I never really knew about when I got into this is that you don't have to go to Hollywood to make a movie. You don't have to go to Hollywood to make a film. And that was such an eye opener for me when I got started in this, Patrick, that you don't have to do that. So it's just really neat. It's that people.
I think that's probably the best part about that is the fact that you don't have to do that anymore. It's like music, it's like a band. Remember when you were playing? Remember how that went? You make a 3-song demo, right? You make a 3-song demo. You had to send it to you had to send it off. The one thing Every time you did an interview, you're sitting there going like, "Or we're hoping to sign with a major." We're hoping to sign with a major label because that was the only way to get your music out to the radio, was or your name to become a household name was through a major label. But now it's like, I don't need commercial radio. I don't need a major label.
Yeah.
All I need is as far as I mean, probably your money's going to be made basically through your own website. You can't make it on Spotify, but if you can lead people to your website and they buy your album through you directly, who's to say? As far as being on the radio goes, there's a lot of radio stations out there. There's a lot of ways to get out there. Even doing press. There's like trying to get your band's name out there. Well, who do we talk to? Do you know anybody in the press? No, I don't know anybody in the press. There's nobody doing what we're doing here. Now, it's like it cracks me up. What cracks me up is and that's one good thing about social media is you always hear about some of these movies, like they're sitting there saying how they spent $100 million on marketing for the Marvel movie. Bullshit. Let me tell you something. That's bullshit. That's a lie. If Bob Iger walked in through the door behind me and said that to me, I'd call him a liar to his face. There's no reason for anybody to spend that kind of money anymore. Marketing is done by this, as far as it's us. We do it. But here we are. We're talking about your career. It's going to get out there. We're talking about a couple of good movies. It's going to get out there. It's going to get in the search engines. It's going to go out there. People are going to look for it. You don't need to spend that kind of money, and you don't need to go to Hollywood to become an actor. Iowa was just mind blowing to me last year when I was interviewing so many actors and filmmakers from Iowa. I was so blown away with how much talent there was there, and it's always exciting to talk about.
Absolutely, yeah. It's you start really opening your eyes to it all, and it's just you go back to like you said, the band days and the rock and roll. You would have had to load up your van, and all five of you live in your van out in Los Angeles and try to get a deal in the 80s or New York or something like that. Nowadays, well, they don't even sell albums anymore, but nowadays you can a kid can get discovered in his basement, just.
Yeah, he can go ahead and shoot his video and put it on YouTube and take off. I mean, I think that's
awesome. I think.
I mean, there's a lot of bands and same thing with actors. There's a lot of actors that, it's interesting watching a few. Like watching, and there's been a 2 or 3 actors that we've had on the show here, and you can see that they're gonna go. You just can see they're gonna pop. And you just sit there and you wait because you want to see it. You just want to be a part of that. Like, I remember when they came in here, and next thing you know, here they are on the cover of magazines. I had one just last week. She was on the cover of a fashion magazine, and I'm going like, holy shit! It's like, it's like, it's just amazing. And let me tell you, it wasn't because she went out there and did she had a publicist and she had a this and that. It was just someone saw her and they came out there and they said, hey, would you like to come over and work with us? We work with you, so it's very exciting. And I think before, it's always interesting how it used to be Hollywood always, give us your poor, give us your tired, give us your hungry. Now it's the reverse. Now people are they're not looking for you to come there. People are looking from there to get out where you're at.
Yeah.
So what was the first movie? So your first movie, it was the short Oliver Runs. What was your first feature film? I mean, did you start taking any acting lessons? I mean, after you did the first short film, did you realize that, hey, I'm doing this. This is awesome, but in order to improve my skill set, I'm going to need a little bit more in my toolbox. Yeah. Was there anybody teaching acting around you?
Unfortunately, no. There's always stuff online, but the school that I went to, we didn't have a drama department. We didn't have a theater group or anything like that. So I never really got to stretch my legs in that. And like I said, my parents at the time they were just kind of like, very, discouraging of following that path. So I never did it. So I, the first feature I did was Run. I had a part in that, that Kevin wrote, Kevin Isaacson, with Mike Godfrey
Why do I
producing.
know that name, Kevin Isaacson? Was he used to be? Did he used to do TV himself?
No, no, he's just all over the Iowa film scene. He's all
Did he have
over
a
the,
did he have a brother named Peter?
no,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
no.
And there, I
But yeah,
just the name
that's,
sounds familiar.
uh, my wife says I need to take acting lessons, so, but no, I've never had them.
I think eventually, yeah. I think you could go as far as you can. You
Yeah,
know, unless you're happy doing indies. I mean, if you don't if there's enough work there that like I know a lot of horror indie actors who they bounce around from low budget films to low budget films, but eventually is like if you really want to make a career out of this, if you really want to go, you need the lessons. You need to you need to be able to walk inside there and or do auditions or whatever. But it all depends what your goal is. If your goal is to become a household name,
yeah,
versus someone who's happy with what they're doing, regionally, I guess it's all up to the artist, right?
right. Yeah, it really is, and I think there's more than one way to trap a raccoon. And it's kind of like, do you go to film school? Do you not go to film school? Do you take acting classes, or do you not? I think it just got to come down to the individual. And then, a lot of it, Patrick, a lot of it's just blind stinking luck. It really is. I can think back of bands that
Yeah,
they were good enough to make it and they just never got a break. Nobody's, and I think that's that way in any of the arts, acting and, singing and all that. Sometimes you got to get a lucky break too. And there's something to be said for that. I know people that, they've taken acting lessons and, studied and they're still working at a Hardee's. So I don't know. I think you just gotta, again, I go back to this, you got to go with your gut. Now, would it hurt you to take acting lessons? Maybe not. Probably not. Would it help you? Maybe. I don't know.
I guess it would come down to kind of feedback you get. Like
Right.
to me, it's like I would, if I was in your situation, and let's just say I did, 5 or 6, films or projects, I would make an actor's reel, and I would try to find an acting coach, and and say, hey, I'm going to send you my reel. Can I get some? Can you critique it for me?
Right.
A lot of them will do that. And I would send it out to maybe like 8 or 9 coaches. Don't tell them that you're doing this. Just like as far as they're concerned, this is only you're the only one you're sending it to. But I would
Right.
send it to 8 or 9 coaches, and then wait for their feedback and see if they pretty much come back with the same comments. Like if they tell you you
Frank,
tend
you
to
suck. Go back to working at Hardee's.
well let's just say they say, well, you need to maybe need to work more on showing emotion. And let's just say 8 out of the 9 coaches told you that there's something you could work on. You could work on that. You could get a scene partner, and you can sit there and say, this is, here's 3 or 4 things I need to work on. Will you come over and run lines with me? Because I'm sure you get finding a script in Iowa is pretty easy. Um, can you run lines with me? Can we work on this together?
Sure.
You don't necessarily need to go out there and spend thousands of dollars on an education
No.
to improve your skill set.
No. Yeah.
And coaches, if you send them that, you send them a critique, they're going to be flattered that you asked them. They're not going to sit there and say, "Well, yeah, I could critique it. It's going to cost you $5,000." No, that's bullshit. A good acting coach is just like a good music coach. Believe me, if you walk up there and you say, "I love the way you play. I want to play like you. Can you show me? Can you show me some basics?" Oh, they're going to do it because they want to talk about it.
Right.
They want to talk about what they know to you. I'm not going to charge you for it.
I
So
get free criticism at home, so I'm good.
that's the truth.
And free criticism is worth what you pay for it.
Yeah, but the same thing though, we also get the greatest coach though at home. You know, you get the greatest critic, but you also got your biggest supporter. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, so I mean, it's a win-win situation, right?
can be, yeah.
Well, so what was your wife's reaction to that when you said, you know, I'm going to be 50, you know, I want to do this. I want to I want to cut my teeth. I mean, was it something that she encouraged? I'm sure she did.
She did. She did. She's been very supportive, you know, going through, you know, the band thing and you know, and because we had just gotten married. A matter of fact, we'd gotten married and like, gosh, it was a couple weeks after we got married, we started rehearsing for the band. So, and she's always been very supportive of that kind of stuff, you know. But yeah, it's so it you got to have the support structure behind you to allow you to do this because you know nobody's paying me to play golf or go fishing or bowling, so you know I can make a little money acting, and so she's
Sure.
supportive of it.
What are some of the what are your memories from some of the sets you worked on? Give us two or three sets that you worked on. You know, the movies that you worked on. Tell us about what you picked up from each one of those sets, like what to do, what not to do. You know, like things you didn't expect to see. What are some of the most impressionable you know places you've shot on the projects you worked on?
Um, One of the sets that pops out to me was I did a very small bit part in a film called Silent Night in Elgona. It's based on true events and a true story during World War II. Um, there were prison camps all across the United States, and there was one in Elgona, Iowa, and they had Germans soldiers inside this encampment, and I got to play one of the prisoners, and my job inside the prison was to be a waiter at the officers club. So the American officers would come into the club, and I was the waiter. And the outfit that produced that was CDI out of Michigan. And I just thought it was probably the largest film I'd worked on as far as crew and cast, and just how smooth everything went. And I was so taken back by Tony Hornis and the guys that ran that. I was just, you know, because when you come from the smaller, you know, either a low budget or no budget film, you know, like some of the stuff I'd done earlier, and then you see that, you know, and how Tony and everybody, the producers and all the top billing actors, how they treated people was just, I was just like, it was so refreshing to see them, you know, treat people so respectfully and kindly, and you know, a big outfit like that coming and rolling into town, and I just remember the thing that stuck out to me was we were filming at the VFW in Elgona. That was that was doubling as the officers' mess of the officers' club, and we got all done filming the scene and my scene with them, and Tony had said, you know, hey Frank, do you know some German? I said, and we're having a phone conversation a couple weeks before filming, and he goes, I want you to speak English but with a German accent. I go, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, no problem. So I hang up the phone and I said, oh crap. So I get on YouTube and I start watching, you know, old Hogan's Heroes. No, I didn't, but so I got my accent down for the few lines I had. Long story short, we get to the set at the VFW, and we get through it, and he calls cut, and he walks over to me and I thought, oh no, and he comes up and he goes, Frank, let's do it again. Whatever you did was perfect. Let's just do it just like that again. I said, all right. So we do it. We break for lunch. Okay, Patrick, and we break for lunch, and there's I don't know how many people they had on that film. I bet there was over 30 people there. And that's nothing out in Hollywood, but around here,
Right.
that's a lot with cast and crew. There was 30 people easily with craft and everything and makeup and hair and props and anything. It's just, that was the largest film I worked. And here I am, I'm just in for the day. You know, I'm just playing waiter number 7 or whatever. And they're going downstairs and they all stop and they said, go ahead. You go first. You get in line first for lunch. I said, no, that's fine. You guys go ahead. He goes, no, we insist. Your talent, you go first. And that was the first time anybody had ever said talent to me. And it struck me as, you know, how they viewed people and how they treated people. And I said, I'm going to aspire to treat people the same way in the films that I write, in the films that I direct, in the films that I produce. On this level, I'm going to be above board on how I treat people with respect, and that's you know, and I just made such an impression on me, and I don't know why it did, because I thought that it was, I probably come into it thinking, you know, this is a bigger outfit, it's not going to, you know, but they were just so like, no, your talent, you go first, and they had this servant's attitude to serve everybody else, you know, to, you know, let them go first, and where they didn't have to do that, and but I was just so impressed with Tony and the crew over there. So that really stuck out to me, that set. And there was a guy on there, he played the chaplain, and I've seen it. He's been on The Walking Dead. He's in like season 10. Terry Nichols, I think's his name, but he's been on a bunch of stuff. And I've seen some other people on. There were some other people in that show or that film that I've seen that person before on, you know, NCIS or something. They were familiar. Now I wouldn't say there was any big name A-listers, that there wasn't, but the way just everybody was so kind, and it just really struck me how they said, no, your talent, you go first. Even though I was just the waiter, playing just the waiter, a couple lines, nothing heavy, and it just struck me. And then the other thing about that is we finished lunch and Tony, the director, comes up and he says, is that, Frank, are you done? Or are you going to be back tonight? And I said, well, I think that's it. Just one day. He goes, stay right here. He walks over. He's talking to the producer, Melissa. And she looks over his shoulder, looks back at Tony and talks. And Tony walks over. He says, hey, Frank, can you come back in like 5 days? And he goes, we'll put you in some other background stuff. And I said, absolutely. So I did. And I just had a wonderful time on that film. I did 2 days on it. And that one stuck with me. That one, and then a Western I did right after I filmed with James Minard and Tyler Ritchie on The Wicked Ways of Webster County, that was a cool set too. It was an old bank in Conway, Iowa, I believe it was.
Do you think they'll be able to? Do you think they'll be able to save your part?
What's that?
Maybe if we speak it into existence, now that we're talking about Webster County, now we're giving it a lot of free press tonight. Maybe that, maybe Michael James and Tyler will turn around and sit there and say, you know what, we need to put Frank back in the movie because they're talking about it.
Oh, why were they going to cut me out or what?
I don't know. I mean, you said you saw your cut. You weren't really sure if you were gonna make it. You were gonna make it.
Oh, really?
Is that what you said at the beginning of our conversation?
That I said?
Yeah, he said
I saw the dailies and I saw a rough cut, and the rough cut of the film. It looks really good. So the stuff I saw looks great. I don't know how he's going to piece it together, but it looks good.
Okay, I thought you said that maybe you didn't make the cut. I'm like, no, we're gonna fix that.
Well, that might go back to the acting lessons part, Patrick. I might have to get some acting lessons to make more cuts, but I think I'll be safe. But
okay,
but that one was cool too because it was an old bank, and that was a really fun one. But then after that, about a month after I shot that with Minard and Tyler Ritchie, I did a Western for Chase Stein in Winterset, Iowa. And if you know Winterset, Iowa, that's the birthplace of John Wayne. And I got to do a Western down there with three tremendous actors, Nathan Hudson and Tanner Stein and Bruce Purcell, respectively. All three of those guys can act, and it was my pleasure to work with them. And that one was out on a working cattle farm, and we drove. It was kind of tricky to find the place, but once we found it, they took us out on forerunners and where we filmed, and I did a day out there, and that one stuck out too. But been on a lot of great sets, but those are some of the ones that pop out in
I take it
memory.
you worked the one day out there. I take it you get shot.
Well, I can't say, but I will say that I was in full garb from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. and it was fun, and you know, I would do this for free. I really would. I'd like to make a living being an actor, but it's so much fun that I would do it for free, and I've done some stuff for free too. So
Sure. Now I gotta ask you a question here though, and only answer it if you feel comfortable, of course. So, in Hollywood, in the union and the non-union, they all have rates of pay. Like how much you get, and all that.
yeah,
How does that work out with a small town in a small area in Iowa? Like, how do you like you want to work for, you're not going to get the big money per se, but you still need to get paid. So how does that work out when you work in a small town or small town plus it's your buddy? How
yeah.
does that work out? Do you have to wait for them to come up there and offer you how much they're going to get? Or do you have to approach them? I mean, when you like, we want to cast you. Okay. So you'll be playing, you're gonna be playing the sheriff's deputy, we're gonna, so after you see the script, do you turn around and sit there and say, okay, because it's like who asks who what the
Right.
what the pay is gonna be? Is it gonna be the
Usually,
director? Is it gonna be the
yeah,
director?
usually the director and the producer will say up front if it's paid or not paid. A lot of times, if you're on like the Iowa film Facebook page, it'll say non-paid or it'll say paid, or gas money, lodging, meals. A lot of the time it's right up front, Patrick, so you know what you're getting into. And if it's never mentioned, it's probably you're probably not going to get paid. Once in a while, like on a film that I was on Gordon, my Commissioner Gordon film that we're sending it to festivals now. I've got sent off to 6 festivals where I play Commissioner Gordon from the Batman fame. That film, there were certain actors that I were bringing in from long distances away. So I would have, there would be money involved that they knew about right up front so they could plan their trip and their everything. So, and then some of them would show up and I'd say, I would surprise them with giving them some money. Oh, I didn't know I was getting paid on it. So, and I would say, well, it's not much, but it's something. So that sometimes it's just loosey goosey. You play it like that, but sometimes you have it all planned. But yeah, usually the director and the producer will let you know up front if you're getting paid or not, and that's all done beforehand. But I've never asked to get paid to do something. So, like I said, I enjoy doing it, and I'm not gonna, if I never make it to the big time, if I never make it to Chicago PD or anything, if I never make it, I'm not going to allow my level determine my joy. So
Right.
if I just stay in Iowa or the Midwest and make films with my friends and other people down in Des Moines or Cedar Rapids, I'm okay with that. Now, is that what I want?
No.
I'm not going to let it determine my joy. So if that's all I get, then that's all I get. So I'll be okay with it. Yeah,
So
we all trying to get higher, but not
sure.
everybody's.
No, I mean, if that was the case, everybody would be on the cover of People magazine, right? So let's talk a little bit about Commissioner Gordon. Now,
Yeah.
is are you defining this film as, like, do you have to define this film, since it's a IP of Warner Brothers? Do you have to define this film as a fan film?
I do, yeah. And there's a disclaimer right at the beginning of the film. It says something along the lines of the following presentation is a fan film, and all entities, characters, titles belong to Warner Brothers or DC, however it's worded. I don't remember, but yeah.
So how did the Commissioner Gordon come about? who came up with the idea? And I mean, it's like everybody wants to do Batman. So who came up with the idea of doing Commissioner Gordon?
Sure. There was a guy in Burlington, Iowa. His name's Nathan Sharp, and he's got a Batman suit, and he does he does appearances as Batman, and he's an actor, and he's got a side hustle where he dresses up as heroes and does parties and stuff for kids, and he was doing a film in, I want to say, May of 22, a Batman fan film where he was directing it, and I reached out to him on Facebook Messenger, and I said something about, hey, if you need a Commissioner Gordon, I'd love to audition. So yeah, and he goes, oh, I'm not sure yet. And then I don't know how long after that I said that he reached back to me and said, yeah, I'm thinking about adding a Commissioner Gordon to this film, Batman Terrors of the Night, and night spelled with a K. And so I auditioned and I got the part in his film, and he's really close to having that coming out now. He's a little bit behind on it. His running time, I think, is a little bit longer than the one I have. Mine's run time of like 20 minutes and 12 seconds or something like that. So, but that's the impetus of what started, is when I did Nathan's film, and I played Commissioner Gordon for Nathan, that it provided me the, and then in the June of 23, I said, I'm going to do a Commissioner Gordon film, and I'm going to get a lot of the people that were in Nathan's film and see,
So
see
like
if we can
continuity.
work. So
Maybe
yeah, I tried to keep the same people if it worked out schedule wise, but it's so tough because it started as a passion project. It was something I wanted to do with my youngest son, and it was just going to be a micro. It was going to be a 2-minute film on a rooftop in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Well, it morphed into more than that. So it basically ended up being 7 micro films that we sandwiched together into one short film. And one of the unique things about this film, Patrick, is that I've got 4 different cinematographers worked on this. So one person shot, chapters 1 and 2, and one person shot chapter 4, and one person shot chapter 5, and another person shot chapter 6 and 7. So it's going to be unique. And I remember people like, well, can I see what the other person did? And I was like, well, I kind of want you to shoot it the way you want to shoot it. I don't want you to see how they lit it. I don't want to see how they color graded. I kind of want it to be something very unique and very different, that, it's more like an episode type of thing for, a TV thing, or a web series is what it's kind of shot like, but I put it together in a film just to sandwich it all together. And so it's off to 6 festivals now, but it's a unique film. It's definitely got a unique look to it. And it really morphed, like I said, from being something small into something much larger. And it was just a happy accident the way it all worked out.
Now, did you know anything about the making of fan films and what it entails before you did your first one, or was it an education as you went forward?
It was I mean, I do it a little bit because YouTube, if you're bored on a rainy day, you look at YouTube and a Star Wars fan film will pop up, or a Superman, or, there's a fan film for everything out there. So, you knew they're out there. And so I had so much fun working with Nathan and everybody, and Jim Brockon, a good friend of mine who's an actor, a great actor, and he's in the film too. And so the way it worked out, and I just kind of learned along the way, I guess.
We have a question from MIPP Fishing. It says, "Hey, I was just wondering, was that your least favorite film you've ever made?"
Which one?
Oh, just wondering what was your least favorite film that you've made. So what was least favorite?
I have one, but I'm not going to say what it is. But yeah, every actor has one. If they tell you they don't, they're lying. So, but I'm not going to say what it is.
Did it ever see the light of day? And what better yet? What made it the least favorite? Was it the story?
I misread the script, and I thought I was playing something, and I ended up playing something else. So yeah, and I don't think it ever did see the light of day. It might have made it to a festival or two, but I don't remember. But I won't say what it was, but
Okay. You know that happens.
it does. It
That
just
is it that happens. I mean,
yeah.
someone gets a wrong script or what have you. Okay. I mean, it wasn't like everybody on the set was an asshole.
No, no, that wasn't even the case. It was everybody was great, and it was people I've worked with many times. It was just I wouldn't have chose to do that particular project in the character that I ended up playing.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, it was my there was a typo in the script, and I got my lines or I got my wires crossed, as it were. So, but that was one that was one that I probably wouldn't have done. And nothing against the film per se, it just wasn't, so.
I'm sitting here thinking about Western County, and I'm thinking, what we should try to do, we should try to get everybody to do this Easter egg on every one of Michael's films. We should get all the actors that come through all these different films and have them find a way for them to say, "You don't need to be crass, sir," because it's my favorite line from that movie. I want to.
Yeah.
Can we get you to Easter egg that on this movie without him noticing it?
I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. Yeah, you're gonna have to charge him for you're gonna have to charge Michael and Tyler for your advertising. You're plugging them all night, so that's great.
Oh my gosh! Well, you know what? I mean, it's super excited for them. I'm always jazzed up to see, you know, what people are doing. Like how they're doing it. And
Yeah.
like I said before, I mean, I am totally in love with the Iowa film community. I'm the biggest fan here in Michigan. I mean, I truly am. I think they're amazing. Um, they're just right up there with the Canadians actors too. I love the Canadians. I mean, it's so cool. It's like people say, well, how do you like Hollywood? It's like, man, you know what? I've talked to people from Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Ohio, Iowa, Wisconsin,
Yeah.
and like you said before, but you don't need that anymore. You don't need Hollywood anymore.
The world got a lot smaller with the internet.
It really did. It made it an even playing field.
Yeah.
So back to Commissioner Gordon, because I'm a comic book fan. So it's very important to me that you're. So which Batman are you? Which commissioner are you playing? Are you going to be playing like the Gary Oldman commissioner, or are you going to be playing like the Batman '66 commissioner?
He's more like I would say he's more like the animated. He's more like the animated Batman commissioner. More, especially in Nathan's film, he was more that way from the animated series in the '90s. Yeah,
Batman Beyond.
the one just before that one, I think it was just called Batman the Animated Series in the '90s.
Right.
It was more like that in Nathan's film, and so I wanted to kind of keep that. What he asked for is that inspiration in that film, and so I wanted to have some continuity. So I kind of kept that same vibe, but made it my own. Yeah, he's not like the '66 TV show, and nobody can touch Gary Oldman, so I wouldn't even try. But
Oh, God, there's actually people that say there's nobody can touch the '66 Batman, and I'm going like, let me help you. Let me help you see if I can help you change your mind on that. Yeah, those two. You know what? It's funny. It's funny if you watch Batman '66, and as a kid you really liked it. As an adult,
yeah,
you really like it. I mean, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. Then now that all these superheroes are being made, they're all being made. You go back and rewatch it, and now you just hate it. Now you're
you
going like,
just
yeah,
you just you cringe, and you
yeah,
go, why did I run off the school bus and sprint to the house to catch that at 3 o'clock or 3:30 every
yeah,
day? Why?
yeah. And it's painful to watch. It's like,
Yeah,
uh, but not the Green Hornet. Love the Green Hornet.
yeah.
Yeah.
There was some cool stuff about it, but it was so campy and corny. As you get older, you just yeah.
What's frustrating with me? What's really frustrating with me in the case of the Green Hornet was it was almost like, Batman had like a budget, right? Let's just say they spent $100,000 on each episode, which they didn't, but I'm just throwing that out there. It always seemed like whatever was left over from from the budget of that episode of Batman, we start with $100,000, and we have how much we have left? We have like $4,000. Let's go make an episode of the Green Hornet.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like, and it's like, but the Green Hornet it was so much better than Batman.
Yeah.
It really was. I mean, if you take away the gimmicky guests, it really was a better show. It was more. I mean, it was just better acted.
Yeah.
They took it a lot more serious,
Yeah.
and it was just a better. It was just a better of the two.
Right.
And you just wonder what would have happened if they would have had the budget switch. How, it's like, and Dozier could have spent the money instead of, oh my God. I mean, that guy, they say Roger Corman is the king of stock shots. That guy, or Glenn Larson is, hell no. Dozier was the king of that. I mean, it seemed like 25% of the Green Hornet was shot on stock.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, so you go ahead and you made a good series, Commissioner Gordon. And now, were you a comic book hero? I mean, were you a superhero fan growing up? I mean, or were you just strictly inspired to do the Commissioner Gordon gig by Nathan? I mean, it was just like, wow, I really like what he did here. I like to continue that. Or had you always been a fanboy growing
No,
up?
I'd always been a fanboy. I always, I grew up with, Christopher Reeve. He was my Superman, and Michael Keaton. But I never, I'm a big, Batman guy, Superman guy, Star Wars, all the nerdy stuff. So it was just so cool to me to, to get to play Gordon, because I'm too old to play, Batman. Every kid wanted to be Batman. We put a towel around your neck and a clothespin, and you'd run around the yard with your friends,
Sure.
brothers. And so, but so it was just being a big kid again to get to do that and be Gordon, So I've always been big Batman fan, big Superman fan.
Now, what's your opinion about fan films? I mean, had you ever? I mean, you said you watched them before. Were there ones that you really enjoyed? I mean, fan movies are, it's a really dicey situation. I mean, you love doing it. I'm sure you had a great blast doing it, but it's got to be in the back of your mind as a producer and a director, like, I'm not going to make many money back on this. I'm basically,
No.
this is just a vanity project.
Yep, it's just a passion project, just to work with my son, and then once the word gets out, it's like, hey Frank, can I be in it? Hey, can I be in it? So yeah, so it just morphed. But there was a guy did a Batman fan film. I can't think of the name of the guy or the name of the film, but that was somebody said they had like $1 million sunk into that film or something like that, and I was like, and you could tell. I mean, it was really good production quality. There was a Star Wars one where they redid the epic lightsaber thing with Darth Vader and Luke that somebody did, and I thought that was really cool. Those two come to mind.
I know a guy. I saw an interview with our good friend John from Doomsday Crypt. He interviewed a guy who was doing I want to say he was doing a Friday the 13th film, and he mortgaged his damn house.
Yeah.
I think his film was like $140,000 to $150,000.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm just, that's why we haven't talked about this for a while, but I think fan films, I mean, before the studios were just, they're just assholes about it, like, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. Now they're sitting there going like, yeah, you can do it, but now, but you can't make any money off of it.
Yeah.
I personally feel, this is just my 2 cents, and I've stated this before, but I want to see what you think about this. I think fan films, I sort of look at them sort of like a tryout, right? It's a tryout. You go ahead and you make your fan film, and the studios, they're gonna benefit from it. They should be able to tell, like, hey, when your movie is done, send us a copy. That was the copy of your movie. They send it. They like it. They like it. They sit there and say, "Hey, this is not bad. We really like what you're doing here. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and give it back to you. And then if you want to sell it, or sell it, we get the first. We get, let's say, how much, whatever your budget was. Let's say it was
Yeah.
100,000. Well, we're going to take we can sell it, but we get the first 75,000. Okay. So you sell it, so you get the $75,000. Then after that, then they tell you, well, now you get the next 25. Okay. You get the next 25. You get to 25. And then we get to that, then we get 70% to your 30%. Not only does it give you a chance to make your money back, but they get money too. They're getting paid. And not only that, but if they like you as much as they say they do, it gives them an opportunity to sit there and say, hey, if he can do this with $100,000, what can he do with $1 million? And who knows? Maybe you do get that directing job that you want.
Or
I think anybody who has that much passion that's going to spend that kind of money, it needs to. The director, as far as I'm concerned, they deserve to at least have a shot, even if it means just directing a TV episode. You come in there, you send. Well, we're gonna have you. We want to see what you can do on this format. So we're gonna have you shoot an episode of Yellow Jackets. Okay, so you get in there, you get your teeth cut. You cut your teeth, and then you go back there, and then if they want to use you again, they can, or whatever. But at least you get a shot to not only recoup your money, you're showing respect for the property.
Yeah.
And they benefit by potentially finding a kick-ass director. Everybody wins. So it frustrates me when I see people doing fan films and they have to mortgage their house with pretty much nothing. There's no way they're going to get it back.
Yeah.
They can't sell it. Even if they're sitting there long, I could just do conventions. No, because the internet reaches everywhere.
Yeah.
All it takes is just one person seeing you sell that movie out of your trunk of your car, and you're done.
I can tell you this: if Disney calls and says, "Hey, let's talk," I'm hanging up and running and hiding because they're going to want to know where you live so they can come slip the cuffs on you. Disney was notorious for that for years. You just didn't mess with a mouse in the house because,
right?
You just couldn't. We did, like Oliver Short, your prime example. There's a line in the film where the character says something along the lines, quoting the Winnie the Pooh. And Kevin reached out to Walt Disney and never heard back. And so we started filming. And like the day two, or like really like second day of filming, we heard, Kevin heard back from him, and they said, you cannot use that line in your film. And we'd already filmed it. And so then Kevin ended up having to take it out with editing and stuff. But I mean, and it wasn't like, the character in Kevin's film says something about, well, my favorite film growing up, or my favorite movie when I was a kid, was Winnie the Pooh, and she quotes the line from the film. So, and it was in a great light. It wasn't, they weren't showing Winnie the Pooh in a bad light or Walt Disney. It was paying respect to the character in Kevin's film, and they said absolutely not. And so I just couldn't believe it.
I can't believe that either.
That they felt threatened by Kevin's, and Kevin wasn't making a fan film. It was just like, I don't know. I was just making a mention of it.
The thing is that studios wonder about it, and they always bitch about it too. They always bitch about when these properties are dropping out into the public domain. And all of a sudden, you've seen all these different filmmakers come out of the woodwork, and they're taking all these beloved Disney characters, and they are basically rounding them into hamburger meat as far as who they were, what they were, what they represented. Part of that was because Disney's being such an ass about it. Now instead of sitting there going like, wow, I could do my own Winnie the Pooh movie and maybe do something along the same lines. No, now what we're going to do is that they just can't wait to deconstruct it. Yeah. They want it, and I really think it's a lot of those are they're just striking back at Disney. They're striking back going like, we're going to take your beloved character, which you made millions of dollars with, we're going to fuck it up. We're going to break it in 40,000 pieces here. And guess what? You get to watch it. And it's like and I understand that. I do. I understand that. And I personally just feel like there's just a lot of narrow-mindedness when it comes to. I think someone else said it. I heard somebody else say it. Like, back in the day, Christopher Reeve said this. Speaking of Superman, he says, back in the day, you had producers and directors that cared about the story. They cared. That's what they cared about. They cared about carrying a good story to the audience, and it was important to them at the studios
Yeah.
to do that. Today, all they are now is bean counters. All they're looking at is just what the cost is going to be, what the low, and they don't care. They got the body, but they have no heart.
Yeah.
And the thing is though is like if they did keep the heart, like they do now allow fan films being made. I mean, they did take one positive step forward,
Yeah.
but that's all they've done. They have never. To me, it's like, why don't you give them a chance to make their money back? I mean, I'm not saying that yeah, they can sell it. I'm saying, why don't you just go ahead and contact whoever it is you have to contact and sit there and say, listen, we're going to go ahead and work with you on you getting your budget back, and we're going to get our slice of the pie too.
Right.
Everybody wins. More people come out, and again, it's like, to me, it's like, you know what? You never know. You might find a director that has that magic button that can come
Yeah.
out there and do a great film for you, and not necessarily
Yeah.
a superhero movie, but just in general. It's like I said, it's a tryout.
Well, if it
See,
doesn't make any sense, Patrick, there's $1 in it, and so you got all this money, and that makes the world go round. So yeah, they just hold on tightly and.
See, Fishy mentions, love the old Tales of the Crypt and Tales of the Dark Side series. Nothing really compares to them anymore.
Go to YouTube. Go have this person go to YouTube and type in "I like Ike films," and then type in Tea Party and watch that and see if that gives you some Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone vibes. So go to YouTube, type in "I like Ike films," Tea Party, and get back to us and tell us what you think after you watch it.
And I also will too. My 2 cents in it is like, watch. Which I wish somebody would do this right. But I would sit there and say, watch The Outer Limits from the 1990s.
Yeah, there you go.
Man, I love that. That's my favorite anthology. That's my favorite anthology. They have so many fucking great stories there. All right, Frank. I think we have hit our button here, and we have. Uh, I want to thank you coming out here and spending your evening with us.
Sure, thanks for having
With. I'm looking forward to. I didn't get to. It wouldn't open for me on Google for Commissioner Gordon, but is it on the tube yet, or are you waiting for festivals to look at it first?
Yeah, festivals, and I'll try to send that to you again so you can see a little snippet of it. I think Matthew, the director editor, has got to give you permission on that. It's
Okay.
not a big deal, but I'll send that to you again, and so you can see the little clip that he's got for you. But so you can get a little snippet.
Hello, Phil. How are you? Glad you're here. We are wrapping things up, but this is what replay is for. So we do hope that if you didn't get here to right now live, you'll come back and watch it on the replay and drop us a comment. We would really appreciate that. Tomorrow afternoon, we'll be back with our last show of the week. Tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. We're going up early. We're heading across the pond to talk to our good friend Mike from Did You See That? Do we have any idea when Western County is coming out? Do we have a date for that? And what else? And are you working on anything else? Are you working on anything currently right now?
I haven't heard anything about Webster County. It's been pretty quiet on that front. I'm just getting ready to support Gordon in festivals coming up this summer and spring. I've got another one of my first films that I shot called Meeting Michael and Meeting Michael Volume 2 are ending their festival runs. They were out in Newport News, Virginia, coming up this Saturday. And so once they get done, I'll throw them on YouTube. But I don't have anything lined up acting wise yet. So you get the ones you're supposed to get, and more importantly, you don't get the ones you're not supposed to get. So
I do hope that you'll get the ones that you do deserve to get. I hope. I actually was going to talk to you about. Do you have a couple of minutes to talk to go on, or do you have to?
sure. Oh, I got
Let,
time.
okay, let's bonus time. Let me get into this because I mentioned this before you got here, and I didn't get a chance to talk to you about it, but I would love to hear your thoughts about it. So, as you know, right now our country is in a major crisis. It's a major flux. Um, the arts are definitely going to be under attack. Where do you feel the future of filmmaking is going forward underneath the current administration? You know, one of the things that really jumped out at me, I mean, really jumped out at me with both feet, is the fact that the first time Donald Trump was president, it was open season, and comedians and TV shows and pundits all were just they were there. They were, if there was a joke to be had, they were telling it. But it seems like a whole different animal this time around. You're not seeing that. You're not seeing people cracking jokes. Very noticeable was Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live last when he was first president. It was, like I said, it was open season. But since he's been elected, and he was assuming office, there hasn't been shit. There has not been anything coming out like it was before. And
Yeah.
I was wondering if is that a precursor for us as far as our freedom of speech goes, as far as creativity in both either either the satire or just the movies in general. Is that something that you're concerned about as an artist, as a director, writer?
I'm really not. I'm really not concerned with it. Maybe I should be. I don't really follow politics that much. But you're right that, when it was open season and he was an easy target back in his first term. And I'm sure, he's just kind of, wetting his feet again back in the pond. So I mean, he's still got, pretty much
I, I,
4 years to go. So
I think
they'll probably get him,
I
they'll
think he
tag.
can. I think he cannonballed into the pond. I mean, he's now going to be taking over the Kennedy honors. He's managed
Yeah.
to. He took a page from Putin's page, and Steven Seagal is now an official. He's actually like an official. He has an official as being like an ambassador for Putin.
Really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that. No.
Oh yeah.
See, I just don't follow politics enough. It just bores
Oh.
me to death. I just have no interest in it.
Well, he did the same thing. He made like three or four different actors into his, like spokespersons, ambassadors, so to speak. And
Mm.
I'm just wondering, as far as let's just say you wanted to make a political thriller or a political satire, is it something that if you were going to do something like that, would you be careful? Do you feel like you would have to be careful in how you said it without without the government coming down on you? I mean, now it seems to me it's like that he has so much. He's doing so much now to control us. Like, imagine if you're a filmmaker and you're trying to and you want to make a comedy about Trump, but all of a sudden the IRS comes knocking on your door, and all of a sudden now
Yeah.
yeah. I do.
No,
I mean, it seems like something that's straight from Hollywood, but I think it's a legitimate concern. And I'm just, you're the first person I've talked to about this going
yeah.
forward. But is that something? Is that something like you said? Maybe you haven't thought about it too much, but
No.
have any of your peers commented on this?
Um, I've heard some musicians talk about it actually, but I haven't heard any of the acting buddies say anything too much. But you know, I don't know. I get, like I said, I just I don't follow it enough to have an opinion on it. What he's going to do, you know, Trump's always been Trump. He's been that way since the 80s and he's not changing. And
Yeah,
um,
but he has a Himmler with him now. Makes
yeah,
him more dangerous, much
yeah,
more dangerous.
yeah. So yeah, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask about political stuff because I just don't follow it. It could be just completely honest and transparent with you, Patrick. I just don't.
Yeah, it's gonna be, I didn't even think of, it's funny. It's like, it never really bothered me. It never really crossed my mind so much, but I realized that, they're doing their 50th anniversary and whatnot. They're doing all this hoopla about this.
Yeah.
And the one thing I noticed is like, man, no one's talking about Trump. No one's talking about, last time it was every episode they had, they were reviewing it and critiquing it and having fun with it, but it hasn't happened this year. It's been very quiet. Even all the talking heads, the normal, like Bill Maher and folks like him, they've been extremely quiet. And I'm just wondering, I think it's just fear. I think it's fear that's dictating that. It's not like they don't have anything to say. I just think they're afraid to say it.
Could be. Could be.
It'll be interesting. All
Yeah.
right, I'm not going to go deeper than that, because that's a different topic. I am going to go. You will, if you guys are regular listeners here. It's something we'll touch upon. Different people at different levels. Because I definitely think it should be talked about. I don't think it should be brushed underneath the rug.
We can't go too deep, otherwise you and I will wake up tomorrow in our separate homes, and who knows?
Yeah.
What, we might not wake up. You never know.
Yeah, so. No, you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right.
Big brother's always listening, right?
Big brother is definitely always listening, especially now. So, but we'll go ahead and let everybody get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Stay right there for 1 second, and everybody else in the chat, thank you so much. And just thought, Sheriff, don't go in there, Sheriff. Yeah. Don't. Oh, yeah. Well, no sheriff will come here. But we'll be back tomorrow night at 3 p.m. and with Mike from Did You See That? And we'll talk to you guys then. And you just stay right there for one quick second, and I will go ahead and say goodnight to everybody else. Peace.